it's 1 more minute to go. Yeah, we can see you, Shelley. Good. Thank you.
You the woman.
And now this PDF that you were sent, it has Linda and David's contact information on it as well. So if anybody should ask for a copy after the show, if you could send it to them.
Yeah, for sure we will. And it will be actually added in the recording for this webinar. So obviously it will be part of the recording. Yeah. So it's already 10 a.m. Welcome everybody. Thank you for your time again. We noticed most of the attendees who are here today, they participate in our every week webinar. Thank you. Appreciate your time every time you join. Today we have great guest with us, Shelley. Shelley, what's your last name? How you spell it? Shelley.
Uvenile-Hesch.
Uvenile-Hesch, yeah. Woman, CEO and President of Women Trucking Federation Canada. And David Henry from Crazy Canic, he also has his podcast for trucking industry. And the moderator for this webinar today is Linda Corcom, who's a certified mental health consultant, and she will moderate. She will discuss all those questions, all those challenges truckers face in their everyday life. Linda, please now take care of this webinar.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Naveen, and welcome all the listeners who have logged in today for today's session. Today we're talking about 1 mile at a time, and some of you maybe use kilometers, but in the trucking industry, we still talk in miles. We have with us two professional drivers who represent the industry very well. They have been driving for long periods of time. And today we thought we would take an opportunity to have a conversation about life on the road, given certain things that they face, the challenges, how they deal with them, and how they carry on to the next mile, if you will. So I hope you enjoy today. There's opportunity to ask questions, and we will answer those questions at the end of the session. So, Shelley and David, are we ready to go?
Yes, we are.
Let's do it.
Yes, we are. Good morning, everyone.
So a lot does happen when you're out on the road, and you don't have the typical 8 to 5 job. You drive for long periods of time, for long stretches of time, and sometimes you're away from home a day, a week, a month, and you travel beyond your hometown or city. You're traveling across the province, you're traveling across the country, and you're traveling North America wide. So over the years, because you have been traveling for a long period of time, what are some common hazards that you see when you're out on the road in those rigs? And I use this question just to start the conversation. And Shelley, if we could start with you.
Common hazards. Every other vehicle on the road with me is a common hazard.
So it's regardless if it's a passenger vehicle or a half ton or a cube van or a tractor trailer. They're all hazards.
Everything's a hazard. I think as a professional driver, you've got to look at it that way. You have to be totally aware of your surroundings at all times. Whether that person's in a car or a six-wheeler, a cube van, or hauling a trailer, we have to be aware of them as a hazard because we never know what they're going to do.
So is that something that you're trained to look for when you initially start out and as a professional driver? I know they teach you how to drive and you have your class 1 or the different classifications, but is this a program that's offered at the schools or companies to help you prepare for those hazards and prevent things from happening on the road?
I think most trainers at the company teach that to their students when you're actually doing your on-road training. And it's probably just slightly touched at a training school. I really couldn't say much about a training school program because I'm old school and I didn't go through a training program. I learned on the job.
And that on the job also includes how you prevent those things from happening. David, what's your comments on that?
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I believe there is some training, a little bit of training with this, but I don't think nearly enough has been done for people to realize, you know what, we are the professionals. We're supposed to be looking out for the others. We're supposed to be the ones, like the OTA program, road nights. We're supposed to be the people that are helping others along. And it's definitely the biggest hazard, along with weather, and all of these things can really play on your mind and give you a hard time. So you really need to pay attention to your surroundings, like Shelley said, and watch not only the other vehicles around you, the road conditions, like as far as the road you're on, it depending on where you're going, you can be driving along and all of a sudden your road disappears if you're not paying attention, you know, and or a stop sign blows by you and you're not paying attention. You got to keep your mind sharp and focused all the time. When I started out not started out, when I came back to Canada after being in the States for a couple of years, and my first driving job back in Canada was with a really lousy fly-by-night company. But the lady there, the person doing the hiring and firing at this small company, she said one thing that I've never forgotten, that truck drivers make 100 decisions a minute. And I don't know how accurate that is, but regardless, we make a lot of decisions every minute, and we need to be mentally sharp for this.
Right, you don't have time to plan for your response. You have to react as something happens.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to figure out what you're going to do beforehand. When you look, I've talked about this for many years, is I drive offensively, and that has really upset some people because, some people like to say they drive defensively. And lately I've been seeing some more people that are talking about being on the offense. So to me, that means that when I'm driving, I'm watching ahead, I'm paying attention so that when something happens, I'm not reacting. I'm proactive and making sure I have an out somewhere, or making sure I have a way to get around the situation. And, in today's environment with the mental stress we have to do the same thing with our mental health. Pay attention to the mental side of your health, so that you can come off the road and you can be a good, healthy spouse, family member, community member, whatever.
That's true. It is a lot. It takes a lot. And your scenarios vary from minute to minute. So the point about 100 decisions a minute, I can see where that could be close to 100, if not 100. On the road, you see a lot of things that happen that shouldn't happen. And like most of us, we all react in different ways depending on the situation. So if something should happen, Shelley could react in a different way that I would, as would David. So when some of those traumatic things happen that really tend to affect you as soon as they happen, what are some things can you share with us that you do to help compose yourself, calm yourself down after that? Because like you said, you're still behind that rig and transporting freight down the road. So there's some things that you do to help you with that, and would you share a few of them with us? Shelley?
I think in some cases, My first line of defense when I've seen something is usually to reach out to another driver, someone that's within my close circle, and share the experience. Um, you have to realize that we see a lot of things when we're out on the road. We're often sometimes one of the first ones upon an accident scene or within minutes of an accident scene. I once witnessed an accident when I was down in Texas. There was a transport on the side of the road with a tow truck behind him, and the tow truck operator had just gotten back into his tow truck when he was creamed by another transport, pushed into the bush, and all of a sudden we could see flames coming out of the tow truck. There was a whole bunch of us going either direction that immediately stopped our trucks on the shoulder. We started running with fire extinguishers. And unfortunately, we couldn't save that tow truck driver. If you've ever listened to somebody screaming for their life as they're burning to death alive and there's nothing you can do for them, it's something that you never forget. There was 6 of us that were traveling the opposite direction. We went about 5 miles down the road. We all got off at the truck stop. We went inside and sat and had a coffee because we just could not believe what we'd seen, and we were just too shooken up to drive, and we knew it. A few of them, we actually ended up spending the night there, and only one guy continued on. But it's just the things we see. You'll see more frequently down in the U.S. You'll drive by, and the state police down there, the body bags will be laying right there on the road. They don't do a very big job of covering that up or closing down their things just to get traffic moving again. So, I think we need to be a little bit more cautious and remember the things and sights that our drivers are actually experiencing out on the road.
And the impact it has for a lifetime.
Very true. I mean, you don't forget those things. They stay with you, especially when you drive by and you can see that it's 2 children in the body bags on the road. It tears you apart, any human apart. But when you have children or grandchildren, I think it even hits even deeper.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. David?
Yeah, I think anytime we have a near miss or anytime we observe something like that, what Shelley did is absolutely the thing I would do and promote. Get off the road, even if you don't think it's that big a deal, because I've had that experience. Not well, I've one experience that it really hit home for me was well, it seemed like a minor detail, and a forklift driver almost crushed me, and I jumped out of the way. If I hadn't been watching him, he did something completely unexpected. He would have crushed me with the skid that he was carrying and moving around in my trailer. And I didn't think a lot of it. I think we've all had near misses, and you jump out of the way or you do something, and then afterwards, you think, oh, I'm tough, I can handle this, I'm okay, nobody got hurt, it's all good, and then you find you're making really stupid decisions later. And why is that? It's because you've been stressed. Your brain is like a computer. When you've got it all bogged down with a whole bunch of things going on inside, the computer doesn't go very fast. And it's the same with our brains. When there's been a lot of input and things are swirling around inside, man, you got to take time to decompress and let work through those things and then carry on. But preferably take the rest of the day off. you know wherever you are in your day, just take it off and decompress, go for a walk, talk to close friends on the phone, whatever you need to do, just get yourself out of that situation and get, do a reset on your brain.
Defrag. So what I've heard, and those are stories that do impact you for a lifetime. I know in my previous role, I was responsible for meeting with the families when somebody was killed on the job. So the impact that would have, I remember every one of those visits, and I remember every one of those stories. I remember every one of those family members that were impacted by that. And in some cases, there are people who do not deal well with that. Shelley and David, you have a method which it sounds like you call somebody or talk to somebody. And from what I understand and the work that we've done, most people do that. They reach out to somebody because we can't solve this issue we're having alone. And there have also been cases where the individual doesn't realize that they are reacting in that state of mind, or that they're not thinking thoroughly because their mind is filled up. They have emotions. So sometimes it takes somebody else to say, I think there's something going on. I know when I worked with the trucking association up until recently, it would be the spouse that would call our office and say, my husband was out on the road for 3 or 4 days and he's not the person he was when he left, but what do I do about it? Because he's saying he's fine. So all of that impacts someone's mental well-being. But what I hear both of you saying is to reach out and talk to somebody.
And not just reach out and talk to somebody. Like, it's easy to have a bitch session with somebody, and but you have to talk to people that are productive, people that can help you work through it, rather than just having a big pity party or saying, like, ranting about the other drivers out there, whatever. You need to talk to somebody that can calm you down, that can help you through it, somebody that's a really big help to you, and not just somebody you need to talk to somebody that is going to help you. I don't know how to say that any better than that. The brain
I
is
think help is your key word.
Yes.
People do need to vent and get it off their chest and their emotions and get rid of the anger and all those other things that they're feeling, but they need help. And who do they feel best to help them, or who do they trust, or what are the resources? Yes, Shelley.
I think there's, we have a lot of people. I like to say that, I have my inner close circle. Those are the people that, you can call any time of the day or night, and they're going to listen to you. They're also the people that are going to smack you upside the head and say, hey, you need to wake up here.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right. And then we have that circle of friends that are the ones that we, as David said, we can bitch and complain to, and that's all it's about, right? Just somebody to vent how, so-and-so just cut me off. Can you believe that? And I think it's important. And I think sometimes we don't know that we need more help than the circle of friends. I think that's the hardest part. Sometimes we think that we're going to be all right. We can get through this. We don't need anybody. And it's so easy. I think we've become very complacent as human beings. We normally all ask each other, hey, how's it going? How are you? But in reality, of the people that ask you that, how many really mean it? How many really want to know how you are?
Yeah.
And there's also the component that, when you are in distress And we've all been through that. When you're trying to rationalize with what took place and how you're going to cope, you really don't need your friend's advice at that point. You just want them to listen to you.
Yes. Yep. That's right. Absolutely right.
So it's a lot of challenges out there. So having changes in our world since the early 2020, have you seen a change in public's behavior or even your coworkers' behavior with respect to the pandemic, and how is it affecting you when you're out there on the road compared to maybe last year or the year before? Shelley?
Well, I think the pandemic has hit everybody hard, whether you're a driver or not. It's deeply affected everyone. I just experienced a call from a driver just the other night, and basically told me that although they didn't want to kill themselves, they don't want to exist anymore, and they didn't know if I could even begin to understand what they meant. Um, and you're hearing more and more of that. Um, Drivers, when the pandemic first started, there was chaos. They didn't know whether they could cross the border or not anymore, how this was actually going to affect their family. There just wasn't enough information. So you had that confusion. Then you had where all of a sudden, we couldn't get in to use a shower. You couldn't use a washroom. You couldn't get food when you were out on the road. Nobody would take your cash. You had to have a debit or a credit card. Um, and then the public started to get involved, and mainstream media took hold, and all of a sudden people were going, we were heroes. We weren't heroes. We were drivers doing the same job we do every single day, 365 days a year. There's nothing special about what we do other than the fact that we drive the economy. So you had a little bit of people giving, free meals, various associations stepping up, doing events, people going on about the washroom situation. And now we've hit phase 2 and phase 3 in various provinces right across the country. And we're right back to where we started. In fact, I'd say in some cases, we're worse than when we started before this pandemic. We still don't have washrooms to use. Can you imagine being a shipper receiver 6 or 7 hours and getting told to go out and do your business under your trailer, or hand you a roll of toilet paper and tell you to go back behind the building? So these things are still happening and worse, and it seems that now everybody's turning a blind eye to it. Some carriers are being very proactive with this, and they're just telling their customers, you're not going to let my drivers in to use your washrooms, and I'm not picking up your loads anymore. And we need more carriers to step up to the plate and do that. Don't allow anyone to disrespect or treat your drivers less than anything but human anywhere. It's not right.
Absolutely, it's not right. David, did you want to add from your perspective?
Well, I've never seen the morale as bad as it is now.
For the drivers, you mean?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, among the drivers, I've been at this. I've had a professional license since '88, 32 years now, just over 32 years, and we are a bit of a complaining bunch as truck drivers. We like to bitch about things and complain about things, but I've never seen the amount. And I think there's less bitching and more people just. I saw a message from somebody yesterday as well, and it's not happening every day, but it's happening far too often where somebody's just like, I'm done. And I know I feel that sometimes myself. All the nonsense that's going out and all the people just keep putting fuel on the fire, it seems like these days. And instead of trying to put the fire out, instead of trying to help people and calm people down, you know, the bullying and the pushing around of people is just unbelievable these days, with regards to everybody. And especially in the truck, it affects us horribly because you know, we're trying to do a job away from our network of people, except, we have phones to communicate. But yeah, we really need to pay attention to this, because if we don't pay attention right now, if we don't keep working on the mental health of our drivers right now, when things level out a bit, the amount of trouble we're going to have with our drivers is frightening. You
Well,
see,
on a regular day, you have a lot of challenges, like I had mentioned before, but you also have things going on in your home life. Everybody does have things going on. And this compacts it, because now you've got this disease that's affected everybody in different ways, in addition to your normal life challenges that you have.
yeah, we have way less people at home than we used to have. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us now. Way less than we used to have. But we're all working, on the exception of one. But so what happens nowadays? I'm on my way home and somebody's got the sniffles, or somebody has a headache. And we've been fortunate that those of us that work in my household were all considered essential, so we have been able to keep working. But as soon as one person has any kind of health issue these days, oh, he's got to go get tested. Well, if he goes and gets tested and I'm coming in off the road, now what do we do? Or if one
Yeah.
of the others gets tested or gets sick, and what do we do? So as a truck driver, like, and there's no end in sight for this. We're going to have to keep dealing with this for the next year or two, of people freaking out when somebody gets sick like they normally do, because it's got to be COVID.
Well, I think you had mentioned, David, a while ago, that because of the COVID and unsure or uncertainties, that you lived in your truck for a while, so that there was no potential, if somebody got the disease, that you would get it or you would transfer it coming in off the road. That must have been really tough for you.
It was crazy. I was literally 10 miles from home. I was
Wow.
10 miles from home, and I didn't want to go home because it was near the beginning of this, and everybody, it was there was people working in my household that were told, because your husband's a truck driver or because your father is a truck driver, you're not allowed to come to work. It's like, what? Really? You can't come to work? And so I stayed away from them so they wouldn't have that issue, until our trucking association got involved and said, hey, he's essential service. You can't discriminate against him, same as you would a doctor or nurse. But this is still ongoing. So and the mental games it plays in our head, when I get dust allergies or allergies like that, and so when people are combining and harvest has been going on, I start getting stuffed up a little bit, and I'm like, uh-oh, is this normal or is this COVID? And it's just like, it's added a completely different level of stress. And without even touching on all the ways that we get pushed around out on the road, just that one thing, like, can I go home or shouldn't I go home? What that's never happened before in trucking, where we thought, oh, well, I better not go home. It's just like we're headed for the home yard, and it's always been funny. It takes somebody 3 days to go one way and a day and a half to come back the other way because they're coming home.
Do employers, do you think, provide some education to the drivers or their staff, because you've got managers and you've got warehouse workers and dispatchers and you have the truck drivers? Do they provide education or continued support around protecting yourselves and protecting others? And how does that impact the pre-trip inspections you do every day and your post-trip? Can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I'm at a very small company. We haven't, my boss is somebody that is extremely clean to start with. But then he took it even to a higher extreme. And he didn't really do any formal training. But I spent time going through stuff on my own and checking with the trucking association and seeing what protocols are best out there. And so there's resources out there. I had to find them myself at some companies where they have larger, more office staff. I'm sure they were able to provide their drivers with stuff to help
But
with
are,
this.
are, are employers checking your pre-trip inspections to see if there are any issues around what supplies you might need to help you with your self-care to prevent the possibility of this pandemic, versus checking your lights and your brakes and all the different aspects of the pre-trip inspection that you normally do every day?
I personally haven't had that. But again, we're at a pretty clean company, so I'm expected to wipe down my truck and keep everything clean anyway. And I've just, maybe that's been available. I don't know. I just keep my own supplies here anyway and make sure I keep clean. And had friend Angie, she made me a mask and sent it to me, so I had my own little mask with my Canadian, the Maple Leafs on it and stuff. So Angie, if you're listening, thanks. Yeah.
So,
I think for carriers, when this first started, a lot of them were having the same problem everybody else was. They couldn't get a hold of supplies. They couldn't get hand sanitizer. They couldn't get wipes. They couldn't get disinfectant sprays. A lot of them did try, but it was impossible. Then you had, we had some that were like, well, I don't have to supply that for you. Go out and get your own. Not thinking that, it's a lot easier for a carrier to get a skid full of hand sanitizer in or wipes or sprays for their drivers than we do. Because heck, let's face it, I mean, we couldn't even get into a grocery store.
Yeah.
So, there was a lot of that. There seemed to be a lot of confusion about PPE. Is hand sanitizer PPE? Does my company have to supply it? Do they have to supply gloves? Do they have to supply masks? And so then you had the companies that were supplying that stuff to their drivers and a good chunk that were not. So we were seeing within the driving population, well, my company gives me that. Well, my company won't. They say it's not PPE. So there was a lot of that type of confusion. Transport Canada come out with some very good information. I think we started getting that around rather quickly as we could. But you had that confusion. I know a driver right now who has not been home since the start of this pandemic. His wife is a healthcare worker, and for her employment, he cannot go home. They are not allowed to be in contact with anybody that's been outside of Canada. So
That's wrong. That's wrong.
It is wrong, but it is happening all across this country. And we have to face that reality. It is there. People can try to say, oh no, well, it doesn't happen. Well, it is happening, and it's still happening. I could probably rattle off 50 drivers I know right now that refuse to go outside of this country. In fact, some of them have totally left the trucking industry because of this pandemic. People go on about the driver shortage. No, we don't have a driver shortage. We need to start respecting and caring for the drivers that we have, because we're losing them. They're just getting fed up, and they feel that nobody cares, nobody wants to listen to their concerns. So it's just easier to go and do something else.
And that impacts the families as well, the people that they're out there working for. And that puts them in the mindset is, like you said earlier, do I want to go on or not? So
Well,
all of
can
that.
you imagine? Yeah, can you imagine being a parent and you haven't been home in 3 months, and your child is on the other end of the phone crying because they want to see you, but you can't go home. The child has an autoimmune disease, and you're
Uh,
terrified that you're going to bring this home, because you could be a carrier and never have a symptom and you don't know. And for a while there, it was very open, easy for drivers to get COVID-19 testing. And now we've gone the opposite way again. So we are recreating the mess. And that's something that needs to be changed. And I hear about this from drivers right across Canada. They are having problems getting COVID testing. It's peace of mind for them.
If you were in, say you were in Ontario and you're traveling to BC, and then you're going to probably go down to California to deliver a load. Is there any type of a process when you cross the border? Is there any hiccups there with regards to crossing the borders right now, or not?
They've been doing screening,
Yeah.
and there's an app that a driver can use to do the screening before they hit the booth, which is really nice to be able to do that. I've also had the incidents where I've had a few drivers that actually were symptomatic of COVID. We were able to get them some help. Canada Customs was great. Had somebody there right away from public health to assist these drivers and get them the medical attention that they needed. In both cases, both of them tested positive. Both of them ended up in a quarantine facility because they couldn't go home. So it's very real. When the one instance when you have a driver that is sitting literally on one side of the bridge and can't cross, and they're scared.
Shelley, I want to ask, you just mentioned one of the driver, he could not go home since the pandemic started. I know a few families whose husbands are in trucking, they are truck drivers, and they do go across the border, and they do trip like 5-10 days trip, and then they come home. So that exception, your friend, you mentioned about the person that he could not go home because of he's not allowed because wife is in medical services. So is this for a particular case, or any driver cannot go home?
You're hearing I've heard probably from about 15 different drivers whose spouse is in healthcare. And they're not allowed to be around anybody that's been outside of the country for 14 days.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you look at, I had this clarified through our trucking association in Manitoba. Because Trudeau has declared us as essential workers, they are not allowed to discriminate against us. Would you discriminate against a doctor or a nurse? Would you tell a doctor or a nurse they can't go home? That's pretty obvious. They're not going to say that. And we're considered the same as them. So by them doing that, they're actually breaking the law and they're discriminating. They should get their whatever province they're in, they should get talking to their association somewhere, because that's discrimination. That is not allowed.
And to your point, I think there is some misinformation out there as well. So going to the correct resources to getting that clarified reduces some angst as well amongst the drivers and the trucking industry and their families as well.
That's
Yeah.
paramount. I spend a lot of time reaching out to the actual source and getting the legalities. Unfortunately, what we're finding is that even though, like, the province of Ontario, the OTA, the PMTC, WTFC, and a few other groups have been bringing forth this issue of medical attention. Now, the OTA kept lobbying and pushing, and they were able to get clarification with the College of Physicians and Surgeons. Now, today they've announced with the dental schools, the dental offices, chiropractor, that type of thing, for guidance and clearance. The thing is, they can put out that guidance. It's no different than trucking putting out a guidance. Doesn't mean everybody's going to follow it, right? Let's be honest with it. So
People tend to make their own rules.
that's right. And they believe they are a business and they are protecting the health and welfare of their own employees. So, we've got a catch-22 here. And unfortunately, I think we'll be a while before we really resolve the issue.
There's a protocol that I have been given by the Manitoba Trucking Association, which I've provided to my family if they've needed. We've probably lost it, but anyway, I know I have this protocol where it has what we should be doing as truck drivers, and so my family members can actually take that to their employers and say, look, this is what we're doing. This is what we're supposed to do when we come home out of the truck, and this is how we're supposed to act, and to keep everybody safe. And maybe giving that out I'm pretty sure it's a Canada federal government thing, but I'd have to take a look again. But I got it from the Manitoba Trucking Association.
Well, I know in several instances where the rules aren't being followed, because the rules are there for a reason, that individuals are being penalized, whether it be through fines or whatever. But the bottom line is, by not following the protocol that's established for the well-being of everyone while we're going through this, impacts not only the person who decides he's not going to follow the rules, it impacts the general public, and you don't know where in North America it's going to impact. And that's scary.
Yeah. And it comes back to, it's been known that truck driving is not an easy occupation. And now home has always been our safe haven. And now that safe haven is being taken away. Or
And
people keep trying to take it away.
And that impacts you psychologically hugely.
Yep. Very much. Very much.
And I think what a lot of people that probably, unless you're a driver that is not just cross-border, but across Canada, you don't understand that, how important a good truck stop facility is to a driver. I mean, across Canada, we have more card blocks than we have anything else. So, you probably don't even think anything of it, but did you have a shower this morning? Was your bathroom clean? Did you have nice hot water? How was the fluffy towel? Well, you go to any of these card locks across this country, and I can tell you I wouldn't bath my dog in there, let alone myself. They're dirty. They're disgusting. But you expect drivers to shower in them. You expect us to use the washroom in there.
An essential worker. And you're an essential worker.
Yes. And and for a lot of them, their idea of doing anything about cleaning is leaving a bucket of water and a mop so that you can mop the floor with dirty water that could have been sitting there for a couple of days before anybody changed it. There's no cleaners in it. There's no nothing. So in order to use a shower, at these type of facilities, a driver has to be prepared to clean it before they use it. How right is that? It is not right. people go on about, the businesses do that truck drivers aren't utilizing their facilities. Well, my Lord, the prices in some of these places. I mean, why are you charging way more at a truck stop than the local family coffee shop downtown somewhere? $18 to have breakfast, just bacon and eggs, when, in a lot of places you can still get it for like $7.99. So why is it that kind of pricing? So I run out of peanut butter in my truck, and I just paid $7 for a tiny little jar that I wouldn't have spent that much money on had I been able to stop at a grocery store. So drivers are learning more and more to adapt and are cooking in our truck. And we have countless groups on Facebook, then they're just cooking groups. And, it's kind of like some days it's a contest to see who can cook the better meal, right? We share recipes, we share ideas, we share ways to do that, because you just can't get in. And now with COVID, it's you're afraid to go in, right? It's like, quickly go in, do what you got to do, and get out, for our own peace of mind, right?
So what you're saying and what I'm hearing is, as we talked about in the beginning of this session, is you're communicating with others. You're communicating with people in the same profession who have or are experiencing the same issues. So you're not keeping it to yourself. You're sharing that so people can relieve the frustration that they have and come up with some common solutions, like your little cooking Facebook. I think that's fabulous.
Well, it's just become, I think, more and more over the years, and especially the last few years, as morale is so low within drivers, is that we can't count on anybody but ourselves.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah, there's when I got back on the road after my last head injury, then before that I used to carry a barbecue with me. I did all kinds of stuff like that, and I realized I needed to get out of the truck, and I stopped cooking as much in my truck for a while because I needed to get out and see other people. Even if I wasn't interacting with them, I needed to be there. And again, that's been taken away from us now. And at the beginning of this pandemic, this 16 square feet, whatever it is, 50 square feet is all I was given, is all I could have. I couldn't go into a truck stop. I couldn't go into a customer. It was too cold to sit outside, and we're closed up in our own little boxes. And people talk about quarantining for 14 days and they're in a house or an apartment. I'm like, wow, that would be nice.
Exactly.
That would be, I mean, a place where you can actually have a washroom and a shower and you can cook your own food. And I'm like, yeah, well, I quarantine every day in my truck here. I'm either sitting in my chair here or I'm laying on the bed. And I got a pretty decent truck. But wow, there's so many things about this that are affecting our mental health, and we need to keep reaching out to each other. Like Shelley says, we have our groups that we talk to and we communicate with, and if you go here and you go there, there's a little place that you can park, or it's not far into the woods to go take a dump or stuff like that, or you end up washing up more, and you can't wash up. A lot of places now, they have signs. Sinks are only for washing your hands. So you can't wash your face, you can't brush your teeth. All you can do is wash your hands. I really freaked out a guy the other day because he was brushing his teeth and he was really going at it, and there's a big sign right in front of his face. And I was like, what do you think of that sign there? And the guy looked like he was ready to just cry. He didn't know what to do. He was brushing his teeth, and he literally did not know what to do. He just stood there, like he just froze.
Mhm.
And I just walked out and said, okay, buddy, no, don't take it so hard.
On that note, when, we talked about feelings and emotions and how it impacts your mind on the task while you're on the road, which is crucial because of what you're doing for a living. So if you see somebody, you notice somebody that's struggling, and they're not themselves, what are some things that you say? Because I heard Shelley say before, if somebody walks up to you and they say, so how are you today? Do they really mean it or not? So what are some ways or things that you might say to somebody or a driver that's calling you in distress or not in distress, you've just noticed a change in behavior? What are some things that you would say that might have that person open up to start to have a conversation with you about their feelings to help them feel better?
Shelley, you want to start with this?
For that, it's kind of a catch-22, Linda. I think it sometimes it depends on who it is. I find with some of the gentlemen, they can be a little bit more of a tougher nut to crack. They'll tell you they're fine. Sometimes I think it's a case of, maybe not calling them every day, but just sending them that text message every few days to let them know, hey, I'm thinking about you. How's it going? I'm here for you, type of thing. I think
Showing
that
the care, showing some type of a way of communicating to show we do care. We know you're out there and we do care.
yeah, I think that's important. And I think people start to realize and they know who actually does care, right? Um, it's kind of like a vibe. I think that people get off that are real and genuine within themselves. People do sense that from you, so they know that you care. Sometimes it just takes a little bit more for them to open up. Um, we have a lot of drivers there's a lot of misconception about mental health, and some of the medications that are required for depression, anxiety, etc. Oh, I can't take anything, so why go to a mental health professional? Um, I don't, I can't drive. I take it because I drive a truck. I'm worried about side effects. Um, so I think there's a lot of misinformation on those aspects. And I think more of that needs to come out. The fact that, there's a lot of companies where there's absolutely zero for any kind of benefits. So how am I going to afford a counselor? How am I afford a therapist? Oh, and my Lord, my boss wants me to take 2 weeks off to go for all these sessions. Well, who's going to feed my family? Right? I don't have the time for this. I have to be out on the road. I have a family to support. Right? So I think being aware of different things like Wellness Together Canada has recently launched, which is an excellent platform. There's many tools and resources on there. It'll hook you up to counseling therapists. And best of all, it's free. It's free for any Canadian.
So what you're saying is do it. Pick up
Do
the
it.
phone or go to your app. But if you're feeling not well, seek help. Get help and get
Get
on the
help.
road to
Get
recovery.
help. And I think it's important that every carrier has this information close by and available to them, especially your dispatchers. You can go on there, you can print off some posters, start sticking them up in your workplace so people know where to get help. So I can be on the road and I can get help.
Mhm.
I can talk to a counselor through my phone. Some
724 and 724.
Yes, and it's 724, which is ideal for your driver world, right? So we need to be more aware as an industry. There are no easy answers for mental health, Linda, and I think you know that. And it's different strokes for different folks, right? Um, so it's being aware of these, being aware of the free resources, being aware of some of the signs. Um, if you got somebody that's constantly coming in and out of your workplace and they used to be really well dressed and clean, and now you're seeing them they're looking a little scruffy. The clothes are a little wrinkly. They're not eating the same. Those are little warning signs that something's not right, and you need to pay
Absolutely.
attention.
There's always signs that something's not right. David, I know we're running short of time, but I do value your input as well. And do you have any final comments you'd like to say about helping people out? And I know the key word is getting help and caring, but I'd just like to hear what you had to say before we close the day.
Well, I think, first of all, people have to know that you come from a position of caring. You know, you can't just walk up to somebody that you see as having trouble and just start telling them what they need to do. Obviously, that's not going to work. But I wrote an article actually for the Trucking Network that is up on the website now. And I touch on this a little bit, that, you know, when you see that happening, send the messages, you know, you say hi to them, even if you're not getting any response, even if if it feels like you're not getting anywhere, don't worry about that. Don't cut them off. Like, even if they don't respond to you, don't stop caring for that person. Don't. And somebody asked me the other day, well, how long? I said, well, how long is life? You know, and maybe it'll be 2 or 3 years before something sinks in and helps them. But they can think back to, oh, he said this and he really cares, you know, maybe I can get some help. Or and you know, you don't want to be a pest, you don't want to, but just keep letting people know that you care and you're there for them, and that you won't cut them off. You won't get upset if they're not responding to the way that you want them to respond. You know, because it's so easy to, you know, with our kids or others we deal with, well, you have to do this. And if they don't do it, what do? Do you get mad at them? No, if you're a good, loving parent, you love unconditionally, you're going to love your child or your friends no matter what. And so if they continue to keep a deaf ear for a while, be patient, because someday that will sink through. Someday that will be a help for them.
So
And I know
what I'm hearing you say is, before we get cut off here, is basically be kind. Whatever that is for that individual, be kind.
Yeah, be kind. That seems to be something I keep repeating all the time these days. Probably because I need it. I need to keep that at forefront of my mind for sure.
I think we all do, and we're going to need to do that even more with, you know, the second wave or the third wave coming, and we've got winter on the way as well. Is there anything else, Naveen, you'd like to add to the conversation? I thought it was a great conversation. I always value Shelley and David's input and conversations, and I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. Thank you. I really want to appreciate Shelley and David time and the experiences they shared with us today. Some of the facts come to know to me, it make me very sad, and I really request and want to convey my message to those fleets. Please take care of your people. Please take care of your truckers, especially your drivers, especially. They are the very important part of your company, of your team. If you don't take care of your people, you know, they will definitely make a decision one day, and then we all will be in trouble. Then we will not have food on our plate, and then we will not have a safe place to live if we don't take care of our people. Truckers are very important, especially at this crucial time when we all are going through the pandemic. And yes, I learned a lot from you. The facts I never knew. I was under impression drivers are now, because there's so many news and information is coming out. Okay, there are new truck stops with washrooms and clean washrooms, and they are well taken care of at the shippers or consignees place. But the fact is, there are still some missing points. So we request all the fleets to please convey the message to your shippers and consignees when your trucker reaches to deliver or pick up the load. Take care of them. listen to their concerns. They are human beings. They drove so many hours. They need to use washroom or they need to freshen up. So please give them enough respect. So they should feel like, okay, we are an important part and we are doing our job. And the last thing I want to really say, we really need to provide enough and right information to the drivers. So who are away from the home, they need to go home. They need to see their kids and they need to see their families. They all have the same needs like us. So we need to provide them enough proper information, right information, so they can utilize and make their life happy. And end of the day, we all will be happy if our drivers are happy. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your
Thank
time
you.
again. Yeah. Shelley, thank you. I appreciate your time. And David, such a useful information you shared with us today. And all
Thank you.
our attendees, yeah, I really admire your time. See you next Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we are all good for today, and it's already 11 a.m. and we have to say goodbye. See you soon.
Yeah.
Take care.
Naveen,
Thank you.
you'll have the I saw there's a question about the wellness group, wellness
Yeah.
website. You'll put that up on your information
We will
for
add that
this.
for sure. Yes.
Yeah, so people can access that.
Sure. Perfect. Perfect. Shelley, your speaker is mute.
Yeah, Nav, in that PDF is a link to that. So you'll be able to get it and find it quite easily.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great
Thank you.
day, Nav.
Enjoy your rest of the day, guys. Take care.
Yep.